going on. It's wrong, but do not be angry. Then you won't have fear, you won't have doubt, you won't have worries. You'll be able to see, but you got to stay away from anger. That's why you must forgive your mothers and your fathers so that you can overcome the spirit of anger. It's a spirit and it's wicked. Nothing good in anger because it has no love, folks. You need love to defeat evil. And love is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's from God. It's His nature. So, here's what I recommend. I invite you to download my silent prayer, and I want you to start doing it. You just download it, get the points of how to do it, and then after a while, you just do it on your own. It's going to point you in the right direction that your life will be returned to you from God. He will give you your life back because anyone and all people who has anger, they're not themselves. You are the person that you are angry at. That's why it's so important to get to know yourself so that you can see who you're angry at. And if you're doing the hooping and hollering prayers and things like that, some people get up, oh, praise the Lord, hoop and holler, bless my mama, bless my daddy. Continue to do it. Do both. You will see if you want to stay with the hooping and hollering or do you want to be still and know God. So my gift to you, no charge, at rebuildingtheman.com/church. Anytime you have situations happening in your life, always be still. Don't overreact. Most of the people that I know, they say, oh, I know Jesus. I love Jesus. I'm an observer. And as soon as something don't go their way, they get mad. I'm like, what the? If you overreact, folks, remember to do that. Don't overreact. And when you get mad, it's your problem. It ain't your wife's problem, your husband's problem, your neighbor, your friend, your preacher, your teacher. It's your problem. Why you think you tick? It didn't go your way or the way you think it should go. Don't have a way you think it should go. Let life just happen. Thoughts make you think that life should go the way you want it to go. And if it doesn't, if someone don't do or say or act the way you think they should act, you hate them. And then you blame them for being mad. It's the darndest thing I ever seen, but it's amazing to see it. So relax. Isn't he Mexican?
Colombia.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thanks for tuning in, folks, on this fine Monday. We're back here in the chair. We got a bit of a show for you. It's popped off, as they say, over the weekend. Look, the world is an angry place, okay? And so there's news to talk about besides some of the protest stuff, Iran, and this and that. We got a bunch of news. Look, the world is an angry place, okay? The world is an angry place. Do I have to tell you that? And so I got a couple things to show you. We'll definitely get into some of the major news. and other things. Okay, I see calls coming in. I do want to welcome everybody watching the show today on this fine Monday. Like I said, it's a pleasure to be back. Okay, 888-775-3773. If you got something on your mind, something you want to talk about, we'll get to you. But like I said, I'm the American Anchor Baby. I'm live on rumble.com/American Anchor Baby, punchy.tv/Anchor Baby, and of course my viewers on YouTube. How you doing, everybody? It's a pleasure to see you here. Thanks for joining me over the weekend, attempting to join me over this in the trenches with this protest business. I have some sort of thoughts about that. You know, I was in there. I got to say, it really wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't, but it was nothing like when I went out to film the Black Lives Matter protests, riots, etc. And I was hearing this common refrain, this question I was asking people. Derek was out there with me, and we both noticed a similar thing that people were saying online, that black people were sitting out. We're sitting this one out. And we asked some people, and so we got that. We gathered some of that vibe out there a little bit. We asked some black people outright, "Are you out here protesting?" They're like, "No, we're just here looking." And it's like, you know, can we tie those two together? There were a lot of people. There was tear gas thrown. There was even on the Friday that passed, there was cars burning. I think almost every night there was some looting. But is there a connection there, folks? Black people sitting it out, and the ICE Los Angeles protests not necessarily devolving into intense looting and cars burning, and I don't know, folks. Maybe, you know, I don't think that's fair to say, personally. I think they just learned. I think a little something here. I think there's even something to be said about Trump and the whole fiasco of, is he going to send them the National Guard? That's not your jurisdiction. We can handle it. Wait, let's actually really handle it, or else we'll look bad. I think there might be something to be said about that, maybe. Because they were there fast, you know, and it was still daytime, and they were throwing tear gas. So that's just a little bit of my take being in there, okay? Just letting you know. It didn't really pop off. And the cops, you know, just pushed them away. When I was out there for the Black Lives Matter stuff, the cops were surrounding certain, like, for example, the promenade, I think it's called, over there in Santa Monica. The cops, you could see them out, down in the distance. You could see them lined up, like creating a big square, pretty much helicopters, the news stations. They're totally visible. Just watching the crowds, the masses of people protest. Well, really, they were looting. They were full on breaking in. I was in there with them. You remember, for those that remember, when I was doing that. For those that remember, we were in there. The cops were just watching it all happen. I imagine it's some connection between, okay, some, like, spiritually at the core, it was, this is the blacks' protest. Let's let them handle it in a sense. And it's like you're watching them do that. Wait, this is still a protest, right? This is there. Let them handle it. And then maybe a similar thing with the Mexicans in LA. I don't know. Look, it was a no kings thing, right? It was maybe even beyond the Mexicans, but in LA it was very Hispanic. So, look, that was just some quick thoughts about it off the top about over the weekend, but a number of things happened over the weekend, and calls are coming in. Let's see. I want to get this off my chest first, and then we'll get right into calls, and then Iran, and then everything. So 888-775-3773. Appreciate the callers. You know, let's bring it to basics here. I want to just do this really quick. Let's do Sunday. This is Sunday school basics. Jesus words. Okay. People talking about loving all people. What's that? Yeah, I'm a Christian, but what's loving all people? I don't know. I'll leave that for later. I'll leave that for the big guy, or I don't know, a number of things. And I'm sure we can come to a number of conclusions, what he meant, what it meant, what these words mean. Fine. but you'd have to at least contend with some basics, no? Like making it clear on that Sermon on that Mount, right? Thou shalt love thy neighbor. No, he was saying that, right, love thy neighbor. He said it on that mountain. Not only did he tell you love your neighbor, he tells you, he makes like a good like little comparison. He says, you gotta, if you don't love, like, he basically says like it's easy to love people that love you. What does he say here? If you love them that love you, for if ye love them that love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? Do not even the publicans the same? That's how it's written. The publicans, I gather those were tax collectors, I think. Someone might correct me, but I heard they were tax collectors, and I don't know if that makes them Jewish like, I don't know how that works, but the research says, the publicans, they were the tax collectors, but they were also Jewish, so I don't know how that works, but the publicans, don't they love those that love them, right? You got to love those that hate you. And he was telling that, he was responding to the common law at the time. He said, you heard it said, thou shalt love thy neighbor, hate thine enemy. Yeah, that's not going to work. He goes on, he says, the greatest commandment of all, famously, right, in Matthew? He says the greatest commandment. He was asked, what's the greatest commandment? And let me just pull it up. But he basically says to love, he summarizes like all the law. He says all the law. He summarizes it. Greatest commandment. Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law. So anyways. Just saying, now you got to contend with that, right? Yeah, at least understand, well, okay, he's asking, we got to love all. Like, what does that mean? Let me at least try and understand that. You got to at least start there, no? But anyways, loving all people, it's an interesting commandment, no? What was I going to say about it? They were trying to trick him in this one, I think. I think the Pharisees came up to him and they were like, so you're like a big godly guy. No man is that important to you, right? It's just all about God with you. So what are you going to do about this coin here? And it has Caesar's face. And it's written in the story that Jesus perceived their wickedness. You know how you could see when someone's just trying to trick you? Like, you don't really care about the topic. You're just calling me to start mess. You just want to fight. And he's like, look at whose picture's on that coin. Give that to him. I'm talking about God stuff. Render therefore unto Caesar and unto God that which are God. Anyways, so love all people. Interesting, right? Putting it into like today's world, what's happening today. It doesn't have to be so shallow and fake. Like, so what? We just have to allow. Okay, you just have to allow endless immigrants because Christianity says to love all people. You have to be you can't be that shallow. Consider this for a moment. If you don't think the command to love all is enough of a distinction so that it can order your life in politics and stuff. Consider isms. Consider racism. You know that anybody who believes in isms does not love all people and has some twisted hierarchy, okay, to control. You know that someone who uses ism words, racism, anti-Semitism, all the isms, does not believe in the one true God and believes Jesus' words. And especially if they say they're a Christian, right? So anyways, just some random thoughts about Jesus, huh? We're going to get into the news and all that. I appreciate your calls. I want to get to all of you and super chatters and all that. Amazing. 888-775-3773. Incredible news. We'll get into all of it. Let's get to Aaron. We got Aaron out of Maryland. Appreciate your call. You're on the air.
Hey, Nick. What's up, man? How are you?
All is well, sir. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, what's up? Aaron, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. What's up? Go ahead.
Hey, I called in on one question, but when I was hearing you talking, another question came up.
Well, tell me what's the most important thing you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go there. So I wanted to say, when you were live on the stream, there was a lady there was a large, I don't want to say large maybe, but there's a black lady that was in control of a microphone. And she went to take a sip of water. And when she took a sip of water, she said, after she drank water, she said, "I wish this was alcohol." And you remarked on that. And I want to know, what do you think about that? What do you think about that situation?
So we moved away from the crowd. Pretty much terrible service in the big massive crowd. So we moved away. We're walking down one of the streets. I forget which one, probably First Street or something. And we happen upon it sounds like a noise show or something, like an impromptu, a storefront noise show. It looked like I forget. It was like two white guys, maybe a girl, maybe three guys, guitar amps, and we were far away. We were coming in as the song is ending. We come in and there's a woman. I think it was a woman sitting there, possibly even like chair-ridden in some way because this person's feet were like a mess. They were. You
commented on it, yeah. You commented on it. You were saying the feet didn't look right.
The feet were swollen and messed like I don't know if they could work. Right. So this person was very large. It was fat. Was clearly like this is the first look at you get at this person, right? This person's on the mic and is saying, what was this person saying? Do you remember? They were like, acting as some sort of MC for this impromptu protest side street storefront show. And they're like, she's saying some insane angry things about the goings-ons and then has a bottle of water, sips it.
Yeah.
There's the crowd is like no noise. It's sad. It's really sad. And she's like, I wish this was alcohol. So that's the scene for the people that you're describing for the people that weren't watching.
Yeah.
And seen. I mean, what were you thinking about it? It just seemed like this is a collection of sad, angry people. This is where you'd come to do it. It seemed like very fitting in a sense.
But wasn't that amazing when she said, "I wish this was alcohol"? It's almost like the thing.
And the crowd, there was like maybe one person in the crowd was like, "Woo!" Like a little sad woo. Like that was a crowd of people feeling bad for somebody.
But isn't it amazing, the whole idea of the fact that like it kind of gives way to the idea that she doesn't even want to do what she's doing. You know what I mean? Like she wishes she had some alcohol to get through what she is being forced to do right now. You know what I mean?
Right. You get what I'm saying? They won't see it like that. Totally. No, yeah, that it's you wouldn't see it like that, right? When you're in your hell, I guess. But yeah, everything's spiritual. That whole moment was a crowd of people feeling bad for someone. They were. You didn't even have to say it. Someone would even hear me say this, like, "Oh, Nick, you read all that into it." It's like it's in the energy, man. It's there.
Much.
Like and I can read into things, but I'm just saying that this 100%. Was sadness. This was people feeling bad. The little woo at the alcohol comment like that is sad. But yeah, thanks, Aaron, for tuning in. Appreciate that, man.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Call me again. Yeah. We were streaming there. Nice. Okay, so shall we get into the show? Let's see here. What was I going to do? Sorry, I'm a little lost. Where was I? 888-775-3773. We got Mark out of Los Angeles, California. How you doing, sir? Go ahead.
Hi, Anchor Baby. I wanted to talk about two things, and I'll make them quick. First of all, I I wanted to talk about Hake. I know it's not his show. All I wanted to say real quickly, and I hope he's listening, in the spats that I've had with him over the years on the phone, that's all over with. I mean, I had an argument with him. We made up. We're Christians, and everything's well. I'd like to compare it to the Musk-Trump debacle. Now, they've recently became friends again after the L.A. riots. But, I mean, Musk even indirectly called Trump a pedophile. And it's all over now. They're going to be friends again. And real quick, that's all I had to say about that.
I will move on
as far as Hake goes, he's a good man. We've had our disagreements, but I think it's healthy to constructively criticize.
Yeah, Mark, let's move on from that.
All right.
What'd you call my show vote?
I'm calling, secondly, to tell you it looks like Iran is going to back down from Israel. From Israel and the U.S. are willing to talk peace now.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to say.
Where are you getting that from?
I saw it on Breitbart. That was their headline story. Iran gives in. They're stopping the bombing of Israel. So that's. You want me to pull up the? I'll pull it up.
No. I'm just saying. That does that. You're good. I got it right here.
Iran
I got it right here. That was just some. That was just some like ethnic. That was just like an ethnic onomatopoeia. You don't have to concern yourself about it.
Okay. All right. Now the other thing is on this. You have to love everybody to be a Christian. Okay. First of all.
Oh. Okay.
I am a Christian. And I've told you this before, but, you guys aren't listening. You're good people, the Bond people, but you cannot love anybody unless you hate what tries to hurt it. Now, what don't you get about that?
I've heard you say
what
that.
What don't you get about that? What is so confusing about that statement?
That you added to it, that you added that.
Well, I don't care if I added it. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, okay, then that's a different conversation, and we can go down that.
Whatever. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, where's this energy all of a sudden from, Mark? Who are you? Talking to your friend? You called into my show to talk to a buddy, or are you coming to call me and yell at me? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Where's this attitude coming from all of a sudden?
I got this.
Hold on. I'm trying to tell you that what Jesus said. You may disagree and say, hey, well, this is what I've come to conclude about it further, and if you don't hate what you don't love, blah, 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 then fine, we can go down that discourse and have an interesting conversation. But I'm saying that's what Jesus said, and you added to it. You want to deny that? I don't know. That's insane. You added to that. That's what you did, and that's fine.
But just for the record, I never tried to add anything to the Bible or anything Jesus said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying out of common sense, you should know that anybody like your mom, your wife, your kids, if anybody tries to hurt them, you're instinctively going to hate them. I mean, you could say no. You could say, no, that's not true. But deep down it's true. Somebody
I can totally
tries to
understand
hurt
that.
someone you love, you're going to hate that person. And furthermore,
wait, but on that's so interesting because that's just real. That's just like real without just repeating scripture. You're talking about how people are. It just seems to me, whether we understand it or not, it seems to me like Jesus is asking us to transcend that somehow. And even if when I speak on it, it may not make sense. Like what? So what? We're supposed to do this or that politically? Fine, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me at the core, Jesus is asking us to transcend that. What you're saying, this common thing that people do, that when you hurt my family, I'll hate you, and then this cycle, blah blah blah.
Well, the way I look at it is, if I'm wrong and I hate. For example, if I hate the people that killed Jesus because I love Jesus, if I'm wrong for that, and when I die and go to Judgment Day, if God says to me, "You hated, so therefore I'm banishing you to hell," then I'll accept it. But if I know I'm not wrong, I mean, we have to put down the infidels, however you want to pronounce it. You could pretend like
the infidels. Who are the infidels?
Right.
Who are the infidels?
Now, you could pretend like you don't hate them, or you could pretend like the.
No, I'm not saying I don't hate. I'm not saying that
you're not a Christian.
But well, there you go. Now we definitely.
No, I'm not calling you that. Don't misunderstand. I'm not trying to call you names.
No,
all I'm is if you just conceded that you hate, then how are you any more or less a Christian than me?
That's all I'm trying to express is that I'm not coming at this like holier than thou, like because you're saying that you're trying to just say that Jesus is wrong by saying that by bringing me into it by saying don't pretend like you don't hate, but that's a different topic, you know. That's
when you say I
would
say
you
Jesus wrong,
do you deny that? Say again. What words am I putting in your mouth? I don't want to do that.
I said Jesus was wrong or whatever you just said. That's putting words in my mouth. I didn't add anything to what he said or criticize him for anything he said. If I'm not up to his measures at Judgment Day, I'll pay for it.
Right, but you were saying, but Nick, be honest. You hate them too. You hate your enemies too, right? You're bringing up my fault to somehow deny something that Jesus said. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. That's where that falls apart.
Okay, but let me ask you.
I may have a fault, but that Jesus still said to love your enemies.
Okay. And if you don't, you're going to hell? Is that the idea?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I read Jesus said.
Thou shalt not
I don't even
hate.
read the whole Bible, man. I don't
know.
No,
I know, but we know the Ten Commandments, and it doesn't say thou shalt not hate. Hate is just a natural reaction.
He summarized all the commandments. He told these Pharisees, they were trying to trick him in this story. They were like trying to trick him, these Pharisees and stuff. And he said to them, you know, all your laws, all of it summarized. The Ten Commandments, all of it is in this: love your God with all your heart, mind, with all that, and to love your enemy, to love your neighbor as yourself. That summarizes the 10.
Okay, then I would say probably almost everybody's not going to heaven because there's nobody out there.
That might be true, and I'm not pretending.
No,
I just want to say too that it's not like I know exactly what that means, right? To love your enemy. So now here I'm telling you, Mark, that also means to allow immigration or something. Like, I don't know exactly what it means in its totality, right? So it's just you got to contend with that. When you come at me and say, no, I'm a Christian and I don't love my enemies, well, okay. That just has to be wrong, right? That just has to be, like, I'm going basics with it, man. Sunday school.
Okay, think about it this way, Nick.
Yeah.
Before, it used to be, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but during World War II and before that, Catholic priests and bishops would bless the soldiers before they went out to kill. Okay, now the Bible says thou shalt not kill, but those soldiers are going to kill, and they've been blessed by the church to do so. Okay, now when you kill somebody, you can't really love them. I mean, you could say you do. You could say, well, I love my enemy, even though I just blew his head off. But you just got to be realistic about this. You know, the word hate cannot be used as a way to stop an argument. Well, for example...
Well, I don't know if it's already... In my mind, see, when you talk to me, what you said is already an assumption in my mind. Who's to say the church speaks for God? I mean, in my mind, that's an authority, in a sense, God left for us anyways. Well, no, he left that to us anyways. In a way, I don't want to say the church speaks for God in that way. You know,
well, all I can say
but yet he left that to us. So I don't know. It's just I don't see it like that.
The priest would bless the soldiers for their safety.
Right, but in your mind, that's
like
God
speaking.
speaking.
Like the way I pray for Derek Chauvin and David Duke, I pray that they're going to get well and they're going to be safe. And I'm
but in your mind, this church blessing soldiers is in your mind that's God speaking, and that somehow means that you're allowed to hate your enemy.
No, now you're putting words in my mouth. I said that if the priest blesses the soldiers, he's doing that for their protection and for their safety, and he knows they're going to kill. And he knows in the Bible it says, thou shalt not kill. So tell me, are they hypocrites or what? I mean, you know as well as I do.
No, they're not. I don't think they're necessarily hypocrites. It might just be your perspective as...
No, I don't think they're hypocrites at all.
Let me get it out. Let me get it out. They may not necessarily be hypocrites. It may just be your perspective pigeonholes them like that.
No,
could it just be that it's not just killing? Could it just be that an individual, a Christian individual who believes in, thou shalt not kill, like with anger, with murder, didn't think that God meant I can't defend myself? It's like
Well,
it could be just your perspective that makes it seem that way.
When a soldier's going to war, it's assumed that he's going to kill the enemy.
Right,
okay,
but you're saying that the assumption is still with your interpretation of "thou shalt not kill."
Well, what does war mean to you?
The narrow interpretation is actually maybe you. Just consider it that maybe God didn't mean you can never kill anyone. That means you can never defend yourself. That means it's like I personally don't think that's what God meant. That you can never defend yourself. That you can never. But to you, to someone who's to someone with a narrow, I would be a hypocrite maybe, but I wouldn't see it that way.
Well, no. When a person goes to war, joins up with the army, goes to war, they know they're probably going to have to kill somebody. I mean, it's not a jump. They know what they're getting into. The priest knows.
You already said this. What's the point? Yeah, the church is sanctioning killing, yet the commandments say otherwise. And your question is
that it's justified to kill in some cases. It's justified.
And your point is,
let me finish, please. It's justified to kill in some cases. It's justified to hate.
I agree with that. I didn't disagree with that.
So when you make a blanket statement, my friend, that if you hate, you're not going to heaven because you're disobeying God's law, that's baloney.
See, you were trying to prove that you can. You were trying to say with the whole thing with the church sanctioning killing and all that, you were trying to say, hey, you are allowed to hate your enemy.
That's right.
One doesn't prove the other.
No, well, I'll be judged by...
It just simply does it,
So I'll be judged by God, and if I'm wrong, I'll pay the price. But I'm not going to lie to you and say I love everybody, because that would be a lie. And I'm not going to lie to be politically correct. Okay?
Fair enough, man. I'm not asking you to do that. I've never asked you to do that. Notice I've never asked you to do that. Notice if you peel back the whole conversation, you got to take it up with Jesus. If you peel back the whole conversation, the one you're angry at is Jesus. Okay, I'm just telling you what he said. I don't know exactly what he meant. You're blaming me like I'm telling you exactly what he meant. I'm just telling you what he said. Take it up with him. You're saying, blanket statements. That's I don't know.
Nothing. It's nothing.
But hey, he said, "Love your enemy." I don't know how. I don't know how clear to put it.
Okay, he did. But if you got to kill somebody who's your enemy because he's trying to hurt you,
hey,
you're justified.
But that's where you're being narrow-minded. You're assuming now. You've assumed that that's the only way to kill. Could it be? Could it be? What doesn't this imply another way, a third way? That
and be a peace creep?
Huh?
You mean there's a third way? What's the third
that you
way?
could defend yourself without having to be about hatred at all.
Well, if you want to say that, if it makes you
absolutely, you can. You telling me you have to hate somebody to defend yourself?
If you're in war, you're going to hate the enemy. Okay, it's just you don't even know the guy, but you're going to hate him because you know he's going to kill you. And you could have this pacifist attitude.
It's not about pacifism.
Love everybody.
It's not about pacifism. Put it like this. It's not about pacifism. To really want to defend yourself would mean to defeat this battle, to kill this enemy. That would mean to truly want to defend yourself. So that falls in there too. So
killing him.
You're saying I'm telling you, and I'm telling you another way. I mean, I'm just telling you different ways of thinking. You can think how you want, Mark.
No, you're confused, Nick. I love you.
I'm telling you that I'm telling you that that if you don't like that, that's fine. I'm just saying there's another way of thinking about it.
Okay.
Why do you have to be angry? Like, think about it like this: to totally want to defend yourself in a situation, killing someone can fall in there.
If it's in a situation of a war, killing is justified.
But nobody disagrees with that.
Okay, and you're probably going to be angry at the enemy.
I just dare to separate the inner outer world a little bit because I heard this guy Jesus say to do something like that. But anyways, we're lost in the Mark. What's your question or comment? We got to go.
I'll end it with this. There was a guy that asked about me last week. Zit? Who is this guy? Zit?
Don't worry about him.
He asked about me. That's the least I could do is ask you who the guy is.
I don't know. You'll have to ask him. I'm not Zit.
Huh?
You'll have to ask him, man.
How am I going to do that?
I don't know, Mark. I don't want you to ask me is the point.
Well, he was your caller, and he brought my name up.
Oh, he did? I don't remember that.
About it. Pardon?
He did? I don't remember that.
I do.
Okay, well, that's your problem.
How's that a problem? It's a question, Nick.
Come on, man. No, I don't mean that personally. I'm just saying it's your problem to care about and remember what everybody says about you.
Well, he brought my name up on your air.
Am I wrong about that? Isn't that your problem to care about what everybody says about to care about every single thing everybody says about you?
If this Zit wants to talk to me, you ought to put him on.
But am I wrong about that? It's not a personal attack. Am I wrong in saying that it's your problem to care about what everybody says about you?
I wouldn't call it a problem, but I want to have the opportunity to at least discuss why he's coming down on me.
Well, I don't remember why he brought up, and I don't think it was interesting enough to have a debate about. But if it comes up and it's natural, then maybe.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry,
I said I don't quite remember what he said. I don't think it was interesting enough for a debate. But
no, I do. I remember correct. Exactly.
I'm moving on, Mark. Call me another time about it.
I love you. God bless.
No problem, man. Call me again, man. 888-775-3773. Appreciate the callers. We'll get to you here, okay? Hold on. We'll get to everybody here, okay? Everybody's coming in now. Let's do a little bit of news, okay? It popped off over the weekend. Besides the protest, let me pull it up. As you now know, big bombs, attacks, big things. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to pull it all up. Iran, Israel. Give me 1 second. They're fighting. You know about this a little bit, okay? 2 months of negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. 60 days. U.S.-Iran talks. They have collapsed pretty much the day before, June 13th, this past Friday. Pardon. So this past Friday, the day after the U.S.-Iran talks collapsed, 60 days between the Trump administration trying to make it happen with Iran, ever trying for this world peace. What a difficult thing it's proven to be, I guess. So Friday, the morning of June 13th, they called it Operation what? Operation Rising Lion. Massive strikes, stealthy airstrikes, and missile strikes targeting nuclear facilities, senior military members, missile bases, residences of senior IRGC and nuclear scientists. Okay? In a sophisticated, coordinated attack. A preemptive strike, what do you call it? Some kind of strike, but they did it right first. I mean, that's just right. I guess you can argue that. Who pulled the trigger first? You could go back, right? Years. It depends on who you ask, but Israel striked first here in Operation Rising Lion. A massive retaliation from Iran, as they call it a massive retaliation, and it's been pretty much days of, they're calling strikes tit for tat. CNN called it tit for tat. It looked pretty nasty at some points. I mean, this is footage I don't know if the world has ever seen of ballistic missiles striking a major city. Have we seen stuff like this? What, or like a civilized city, right? It's like the first ever footage of a ballistic missile striking a city. Nick, they've been striking blah blah blah, a civilized city. I mean, but it's crazy. It's incredible. War is a terrible thing. I don't know. I can't really tell the languages sometimes. Terrible stuff. And it's pretty much the major news if you're, to be fair, right? We're talking about major war. More regions popping off in chaos, and all this talk of possible U.S. involvement. That's the big fear here. That's what's the big topic for the right that doesn't want it, for those that do want it, etc. The point is U.S. involvement, but it was definitely the topic on everyone's minds. I'm sure this was soon after these alerts and these Iranian counter strikes. I mean, this is Fox. Pretty much soon after, and confirming what everybody says, that's the fear of U.S. involvement. As now that these strikes are happening, you're seeing these rumors, all these what might happen. It seems some of it is concerning everyone's fears, for example, U.S. involvement.
What are your thoughts tonight?
That's the key question. Israel previously wiped 2 nuclear weapons programs off the map in the Middle East, in Iraq in 1981 and in Syria in 2007, both timed by destroying single nuclear reactors. Iran's system is much more diffuse, a lot of more facilities. That's why the United States may have to get involved. We are essentially at war with Iran already. They killed a bunch of Americans. Their proxies did in Israel. We're shooting down their missiles.
We're at war already. People are sharing this, saying they're pushing it. They want this war. U.S. involvement is on everyone's mind. But it's not so. But are people a little too ahead of themselves? Maybe. You know, you have the news saying that, Globe News saying that the U.S. rejected. You saw maybe some of this news come down. But this initial rejection of Netanyahu's request to join the war against Iran. And then further, this news about an assassination attempt that Trump rejected. This Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, which is pretty inflammatory, to say the least, I guess, right? They killed their supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. According to The Independent, Donald Trump reportedly rejected a proposal to assassinate their supreme leader. The president reportedly waved off plans presented by Israeli officials who briefed the White House in recent days with a credible plan to kill Iran's top leader. The Trump administration is publicly holding out for diplomatic talks between the nations to avoid conflict from exploding across the region. And that's a posture that Trump maintains even in some of the most recent Truth Social posts I've seen him put out there. It's essentially telling Iran, hey, it's still time to make a deal. You can still make a deal. Just as many as there are critics saying that's not possible. We're already in a war. This is not going to happen. There's those saying this is the modern foreign policy. We're seeing it happen before our eyes. I'm just giving you some of the news. I think you'll find some of this interesting. Where was I? Trump does remain with that posture, holding out for these diplomatic talks. And these are some of the signs of what can you call it, of a desire for peace in the Trump administration. And it seems like just as this operation from these Israeli strikes happened, all these politicians, Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was strange to see them all come out. And I say strange because it was in the world of politics, it just seems so coordinated. Nothing ever seems so honest in a sense, but I'm seeing them come out and saying, no war with Iran, no war with Iran. I don't know what to make of it, but it seems like a good sign, right? I mean, but you're getting it from Marjorie Taylor. Even some of the intellectual underpinnings of the right-wing MAGA movement, not so much in politics anymore, but Tucker Carlson, well, he wasn't in politics, right? He was in media. He remains in media, alternative media. He's out there saying similar things, about the warmongers. He makes his own distinction about who's at the foot of it all, but he criticizes the warmongers. Those are in direct U.S. military, who want direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. Tucker Carlson lists Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, which I believe owns Fox, and others. And he names these people and trying to, he's describing this divide and those who want to push for this war, against it. And I'm here just giving you these opposing sides and what seems to be, well, not just evidence, directly news telling you there's no war, at least not just yet, right? So are people getting ahead of themselves? Maybe. So anyways, I'm looking at this whole Iran thing, and how do I put this? It seems like there's two ways of looking at it, and I'll just like quickly, I'll try my best to just show them to you. There seems to be sort of two ways to look at it, because this is actually an old thing. I'm coming to learn that this fight, the Middle East, I mean, you've definitely seen me wrestle with the topic in the little time I have over the months. But, you know, you come to realize this is an old conversation. This is like an old conversation. And in some ways, it's a rerun. And I'm going to show you a little bit in a moment some of these people who were talking about Iran years ago. And it's a lot of the same things. So put it like this. It seems to me like there's two ways of looking at it. Like you look at Mark Levin talking about all the people that are he's calling them isolationists, right? They're calling for no war, okay? Hey, we don't want this war. This is a bad idea for various reasons, but Mark Levin, a Republican, conservative Trump supporter guy, I don't know him that well. But I know that he's been a big name in the world, in the conservative space, the GOP space, I think even well before Trump. And he has some choice words. I mean, honestly, this is a lot. Is this a crash out? I don't know. Is this a crash out, Mark Levin? But I think it was still interesting to at least express, in my ignorance, express some of these two sides I'm seeing. And you got Mark Levin, right, he's talking about the isolationists. He's tired of the isolationists barking about the old and failed foreign policy of the past, insisting they've uncovered the secret new way forward. Isolationism. There's nothing new or good about isolationism. It's old. It promotes war, like World War II. You know, talking about Iran, right? Iran is evil, right? We don't want them to have a bomb, they say. Even worse, these knuckleheads can't coherently explain what they mean, blah, blah, blah. We are witnesses. They're so blind and self-important, they don't see the new foreign policy taking place in real time, right in front of their eyes. We are witnesses to a foreign policy unlike any since Reagan, Thatcher, John Paul defeated the Soviet Union. It's nothing like the recent failed policies we've seen in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. He's talking about all the regime change wars in the Middle East that have been going on for a number of years. He's saying this foreign policy, what's going on with Iran right now, I mean, he hasn't quite said it yet, but we have to assume he's talking about Iran, right? Because isolationists. He's saying this is different than those failed regime changes, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what he's saying there. And he's saying it's going to be good. Is he saying regime change in Iran? Trump and Bibi are together demonstrating how to deal with a genocidal terrorist regime, how to use diplomacy and military power, how to use intel and special forces, how to use the media and public statements, and more to defeat the biggest terror-supporting regime on the planet. Is that true? I mean, you heard Mark, my caller, just say, and it could be breaking news that we'll have to jump into at the end of this little segment, because I'm only hearing about this now, of Iran backing down. That would be amazing, right? If Iran is backing down and wants to negotiate, right? The whole idea is that that's ridiculous. That Trump is falling into Israeli agenda and Netanyahu's politics to get the war that he wants and the war that Trump doesn't want. That's right. That's some of the thinking here. I'm trying to show you these both sides because I'm waiting and seeing. It seems like I just don't know. So where was I? This is Mark Levin giving you some of that, okay? Is it that a brand new Middle East policy we're seeing? A defeat of Iran? Trump making that deal? when people thought it was impossible? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just reading this now. Breitbart, Iran cries uncle. Wants to end Israeli attacks and negotiate with Trump. Iran has sent messages to both Israel and the United States that it wants to end the war and to negotiate with President Donald Trump. Say what you want about if this is true. If it's going to end up just being domination, Israel gets what they want, America gets what they want, question mark, asterisk, I don't know. It's like, depends on whatever you want to say about the Israelis. It would end up not being how so many thought, huh? Should this be the way it is? But interesting news, if anything, if that's breaking, of Iran wanting to negotiate. But so I was showing you Levin, and in that thinking, I wanted to show you, because this is an old thing, and I'm coming to learn that this is an old conversation, an old topic. And some of these things are old, like Iran is going to have a nuclear bomb. This is Patrick Buchanan talking to Sean Hannity back in 2015, okay? And Patrick Buchanan's an interesting guy. I finished his book, The Unnecessary War. I've been meaning to maybe read more. I don't know. I'm not that. It's not like I read books like that. I try. You know, they say that the information is out there in other ways these days. But what was I? Patrick Buchanan this 2015 talking to Sean Hannity. This is about this topic, and why Iran must be taken down. Just where was I? And how he says that this is a common thing, and yet it doesn't turn out to be that way. Patrick Buchanan had questions about it.
Pat, shouldn't it be a
See, I'm ignorant about it. I'm just trying to show you all these amazing clips and stuff that I have unearthed of our world, of our civilization, and not even that long ago.
Prerequisite that Iran stops being the #1 state sponsor of terror, that they stop saying that it's non-negotiable, Israel's destruction, and that they stop saying death to America before we even sit down at the table with them?
No, Sean. Look, in 1956, Khrushchev says, "We will bury you Americans," and 3 years later, he was in the White House with Dwight Eisenhower. You got to talk to your enemies. Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, came out and said, "We're going to wipe Israel off the map." It was beer talk.
They've said it doesn't. Pat, that's not beer talk.
He was in office 8 years, Sean, and he's back teaching in college.
You don't believe them? Wasn't that a mistake we made in World War II? That the only person that seemed to really understand the nature of Hitler's ambitions was a guy by the name of Winston Churchill? Wasn't he the one guy that understood that he really meant what he said?
Sean, Ahmadinejad was in power for 8 years. He did nothing. He was a blowhard. Are we going to be frightened by words from some character in Iran?
Pat, what do you mean blowhard? The blowhard that supplied Hezbollah rockets and other terror groups rockets to fight a proxy war against Israel. They're fighting a proxy war now against Saudi Arabia and Yemen. This is all Iran, Pat. What part of this are you missing?
I'll tell you what, Sean. In Iraq, Iran is fighting ISIS and al-Qaeda. In Syria, they're fighting ISIS on behalf of Assad. In Yemen, they're not involved there.
You think that the Iranians are our friends?
It's an old fight, you see? You're like, remember World War II, boomers in the chat. You guys are what? You guys are not happy seeing this boomer fight? What is this? Look, folks, that sounds to me like they both have interesting points. But the point is, they've been talking about this. Oh, Iran's gonna have a bomb. They're gonna nuke the world any moment now. That's what I'm also seeing. It seems to me like they both have interesting points, sincerely. I'll tell you where I don't know. I'll tell you where I'm ignorant. But these are the topics. These are these conversations that have been going on. And this is more just like recent, 20, 30 years of American politics. But where was I?
Sean, they're not...
That's the point of the clip. We don't really need to get into it. But what can I say? It's an old fear, an old fight. Is Netanyahu correct? Maybe. Is Netanyahu wrong in this series of clips they've gathered of him seemingly saying from the 80s that of this looming threat of a nuclearized Iran? Will I say he's necessarily wrong for this? I mean, people are collecting these clips and saying he's wrong for this. I don't know if he's necessarily wrong, but it is an old story. It's an old fight, and I'm becoming aware of it, right? So take it in. I mean, they put this all together. I look at this and I'm like, Netanyahu seems. Can you even blame him? Like if you wanted, right, the greatness of your own nation and people, then you would see this as like awesome. No.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
I disavow the music.
Take out
bro. Really, bro?
Saddam's regime, I guarantee that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too, but it may change the nature of achieving that victory. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends.
It says here, this man has been on a mission since 1982. Hey, it's awesome in the true sense of the word, no? The world has had to maybe just sit there and watch. And what can you do to such a thing? What do you do? What do you do in the face of a Jewish golden age? You just watch. I guess. I don't know. That was just something I heard the other day. I thought it was funny. But what was I saying here? Look, about this. It seems like people like Patrick Buchanan have been trying to say, what is this ongoing campaign to do this in that region? They had their questions about it. Are we seeing just the end of that? Is that what we're seeing? Are we just seeing the end of this long campaign to, I don't know what to do to the Middle East, but make it stable? And stability could be a number of things, right? It could also mean regime change, like your government, your Islamic government is not stable for our world we're trying to build here. In a sense, has it been, if Iran comes to the negotiating table, joins Saudi Arabia, joins all these other Arab countries that have basically, you'll ask the Arab world, they'll say they caved in and they given into the Western world. I don't know, depends on who you ask. Will this have been a success then? A success for who? I guess it depends. But for the world, maybe? I don't know what to think. I'm just thinking out loud about that whole region. Because if Iran were to come to the negotiating table, right, and they successfully regime change or do whatever they want to do with Iran, will it have been a success? Is that peace in the Middle East? I don't know what to think about it, but I think we can say we're not in a war. The U.S. is not in a war. I think it's fair to say people are maybe ahead of themselves. And I think this news with Iran wanting to come to the negotiating table is proof of that. We've yet to see what's to come of this, huh? Let's move on, I think. I got callers here, 888-775-3773. Let's keep it moving here, right? Where was I? 888-775-3773. Let's get to William out of California. How you doing?
Hey, Hummer coming in.
Coming in clear. Go ahead.
All right, man. Let me tell you where this started. Iran has been asking for some for about 40 years.
Has been asking for what?
They've been asking to get their butts kicked for the last 40 to 45 years when they took our hostages
under Jimmy Carter. That's why he's the worst president ever. Well, the Democrats, they just basically all they do is create a bunch of wars everywhere they go. And you remember Carter had the hostages. He was a president then, and then in 1980,
I heard
Reagan
about that.
came
I'm
in-
actually not familiar too well, though.
Well,
I've
in
heard about
1980
that, though.
when Reagan,
This
yeah,
hostage
okay, so
crisis.
This is very important. This is very important. So the regime that's in now created that uprising and got those hostages and kept them, and they didn't even ask the United States. President Reagan, when he came in office, he did not even ask for them. Iran just gave them up because they knew Reagan would do some bad things to him. So we come along and there's money that was froze for 30-something years, 40 years, that belonged to the Iranians that was froze by the United States. And there was a president that came along after all the presidents before him didn't do it. There was one president that released those funds to Iran. And you know who that is?
No.
It was 8 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, Obama.
Barack Hussein Obama, correct. And they took the money that was unfroze and funded a bunch of proxy groups to attack and irritate Israel and anybody else that's associated with the West. So if the United States could knock out their supreme leader, but the United States don't really want to do that. The president and the courts don't really want to kill him like that.
So you support a war with Iran?
Well, they're hoping for them to have an uprising and a change of regime.
I heard about that. I don't know
Create
how. I don't
a
know
civil
how.
war. Yeah.
I don't know
they
how
can
possible
isolate.
that is.
Okay, the United States can isolate Iran with the Navy, and nothing gets in, nothing gets out. They starve, no water, no electricity, and they would be messed up. Or they could attack them, or both. So, it's not a fact of can we, it's just that we haven't, but we could.
But so you're saying you
This is
support a war
the
with
old
Iran?
conflict. It goes back to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
We should have kicked their butts like we did Iraq and Afghanistan and all them countries. We could have just outright won those wars. But politically, some of those wars we lost. Like Afghanistan was won and under control, and Dumbo Biden pulled us out and left equipment. Dumb. We've never done that before. Dumb.
So when you're saying, though, that we could surround them and all that, you're saying you support a war with Iran or a regime change and all
They
that?
they can just put a blockade on the whole country just with the Navy. I think 3 Ari Burke Navy destroyers are on their way. A battle group is probably already there, which is a carrier, nuclear carrier. One U.S. destroyer can pretty much knock Iran off the map. But what it is we do not want them to have a bomb. They don't like unstable governments to have nuclear weapons. That's all it is to it.
Now, you said what?
You don't want unstable regimes to have nukes. You don't want nukes popping off everywhere.
So yeah, I understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems like that seems
That's the whole
correct to me. That seems like something that I
That's
don't
the
think
whole thing.
anybody would want. But
No.
But it turns out, but what you're describing
The
is like
way
an
that they
old
hate
refrain
Israel,
that I've
the
come
way
to realize.
that the Arab world hates Israel has a bomb. But the way that the
Not
the
officially.
people hate not officially, but they do. Listen to this. None of those countries like the idea that Israel has a bomb. But doing favors to the United States, the United States is going to always supply them because they have something to offer. Strategic location to keep the Middle East under control.
Isn't that the same justification for Ukraine?
No.
And why not?
Too close to Russia.
But it's the same. It's the same justification to control the region.
We ain't gonna
It's
let
an
we ain't
asset
gonna
to
let
control the
China set
region.
up. You think we would ever let China set up shop in Mexico?
Exactly. I would say no.
No.
And it's for that reason that
we shouldn't be involved with.
So
the
the
Ukraine
justification remains in Ukraine.
We shouldn't even be involved with it because it's too close to Russia, and Ukraine will never beat Russia.
Oh, okay, I got you. I think.
I mean, never.
You're saying how close is Israel to
will Mexico
Iran?
beat you? Wait a minute, they're flying the Mexican flag. Do you think Mexico can take over America?
No.
Thank you. That's the end. That's the end.
Okay, I think I understand. Well, Israel is not right up against Iran. You're saying.
Listen to this. Mexico and South America could never do that, nor would the United States let anybody do it, nor would anybody try it.
But you're saying Iran. But you're saying that.
You're saying that
Iran is.
Wait,
hold on, but because you're saying Israel is not that close up against Iran. That's why it's different. We can maintain that strategic.
Israel is.
Let me ask the question, William. If
the Middle East.
We can maintain
you
Israel.
Say that, right?
What?
Israel is the stability of the Middle East.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
That's why Israel is supplied.
Right. So you're saying that it's a strategic thing to have, okay?
Right.
As a control thing in the Middle East.
But there's no strategic advantage of funding Ukraine. No.
And why not?
Well,
because you're saying, I'm understanding. You're saying because Ukraine's too close, and Russia would never allow that.
Too close.
The same way we would never allow
that with
Mexico.
But
with Iran,
the enemy that has just as much firepower as us is having a civil war and taking one of their states back.
Right?
Do you think we should?
How is that? You're trying to say that it's not like that between Iran and Israel. I want to understand how you say that.
No.
How is that so?
No.
Because in Iran's mind, they're saying
Israel is a country,
this is not a support of Iran, but I'm just
country.
saying in Iran's mind, they're saying these guys are way too close to us. Their sphere of influence is right up on us. We don't like it. The same way Russia would say about Ukraine, the same, right?
No, not the same thing. Not the same thing.
And maybe I'm wrong. Tell me, inform me.
Say again.
You're saying it's not that way. How so?
Ukraine is not on the level of Israel to us. I don't care what the rest of the world thinks.
But in Iran's mind, say what?
Ukraine will never be on the level of Israel to the United States in regard to the United States looking at things.
In Iran's mind, Israel has, and they openly, what is it? Wasn't Mark Levin? I was just showing this post by Mark Levin saying how talking about these operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, those are all taken. Let's take in Iran's perspective for a moment. I mean, at least what they say. Maybe they're wrong.
Yeah,
maybe you're going to tell me.
You know who supplied the war?
Hello, William.
October 7th. Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about. What are you saying? I was trying to say something.
The war, and so you know who started the October thing, October 7th? Who funded that?
Right, Iran. Hamas is funded by Iran.
What about the Houthis?
So what about them?
What about the Houthis? Iran.
I heard that they're funded by Iran. I don't doubt that. I'm just not informed.
What about Hezbollah?
Yeah, Iran.
What about Hezbollah?
Iran. They say Iran. They say they're part of the IRGC, right? And they're subsidiaries.
If Obama wouldn't have given them that money 8 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation, no matter how you want to think about it. I mean, that wasn't smart.
Yeah, well, I guess I got to do my homework, William. Thanks, man.
It's an old story since like 1977.
Yep. Call me again.
Okay, Nick. All right.
888-775-3773. So where were we? Look, this was something I found interesting. I was
tonight. I wish to speak to you.
Hold on. I was just hold on, Netanyahu. We'll get right to you, Bibi. Hold on. Hold on, Bibi. We'll get right to you. I was just watching a report on this. Okay, the war stuff popping off, and Benjamin Netanyahu. In this report, I'm watching the BBC News, and they're talking about, Netanyahu here is talking about what he wants to see in the Iranian people.
warnings,
Iranian?
but now nothing.
Tonight I wish to speak to you, the proud people of Iran.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called on Iranians to rise up and topple the clerical regime. And there is not a shortage of opposition figures in waiting, including Reza Pahlavi.
Wait, sorry, I was confused. I was reading chat. Yeah, he said it already, right? He asked the Iranian people to stand up.
The proud people of Iran.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called on Iranians to rise up and topple the clerical regime.
And topple the clerical regime. Yeah, I'm seeing a whole bunch of reports like this, actually, of officials or whatever from Israel and their desire to see the Iranian people rise up. I saw this other commentary regarding this conversation of regime change in Iran. There was all this talk about the polls. You know, they say that the people in Iran don't even like the regime. They're ready to overthrow them, they say, at least according to some. But that's what they say. They say that if you ask the Iranian people, yeah, bring it on. Regime change, please. They can't wait to get rid of this oppressive regime. It depends on who you ask. But according to I believe it's called, it depends. Just trying to give you the overview. I'll tell you when I think I know. I'll tell you when I don't. Here's, according to GAMAAN and Gallup, these are both Gallups in the U.S. GAMAAN is in the Netherlands. They say, according to Gallup, 52% of Iranians disapprove. If you ask a Gaman poll, it's 81% of people reject the Islamic Republic. But that's what they say. And I'm looking at some of the news reports on this topic of regime change and Netanyahu telling them to stand up, rise up against them. They keep bringing up these polls of the Iranians being largely dissatisfied and I guess ripe for regime change. And I found that interesting because for this reason, because I'm watching this report right here, for example. And in this very report, just watch.
And there is not a shortage of...
There was it this one? Yeah, I think it's in this one. Now, where was it? Hold on. I think it's in this report where...
Opposition figure.
Where this reporter... Let's just watch a bit, because I think they describe how the Iranian people feel. At least one report on how the Iranian public feels about, rising up against their own regime. But that would be somewhat in support of Israel.
In waiting, including Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince from the 1979 revolution, closely aligned with Israel's
problem has been the regime and
who sees an opportunity.
The root cause of the problem has been the regime and its nature. And the only solution ultimately that will benefit both the Iranian people as well as the free world is for this regime to no longer be there. I've been arguing this point from the very beginning, that the ultimate solution is regime change. Now we have an
disavow ultimate solutions.
Opportunity.
Yet many Iranians critical of the regime do not see Israel as an ally.
That line right there was so interesting to me. Many Iranians critical of the regime do not see Israel as an ally.
Critical of the regime do not see Israel as an ally.
And there's some domestic polls, and again, I'm just telling you where they're coming from. You can make your own decisions on validity and all that, but this is a couple of domestic polls that went around, showing a 67% of Iranians consider Israel a threat, with 79% of them supporting some form of military confrontation. And I found that line from the BBC so interesting, how it seems like, oh yeah, I think even further, if I let it play, I think they describe this even further, just a little bit.
I'm not a supporter of the Iranian government, not at all. Really, I'm not. But in this situation, I feel a sense of unity among the people. We definitely won't back down against Israel.
You know what it's like I'm listening to that, and that's supposedly an Iranian man, I think, translated for this BBC News report. And you know what? It's just an interesting thing to me how people are. You know, you think the vast majority of people just do not think about the history, the intricacies. I just don't think. It's very basic. It's very basic. It's identity, it's skin color, it's language, it's we are Iranians, we are Iranians, my dad is Iranian, my family, my mama, my sister. And so you're telling me this other flag is attacking? You're telling me this other flag is doing this? How about F you? Yeah, we have problems, but there are problems. At least there are. I'm realizing that's how the vast majority of the world thinks. Don't you see that? I mean, it's an ethnic affinity. You look at the protests that popped off in Los Angeles with the ICE and stuff. These are people who are now multiple generations here in some cases. These are people who were raised by, probably sometimes by, what do they call it? What do they call it pejoratively sometimes? The good immigrant, the model immigrant came here, built a business, right? Wow, that's a good American. Look at who's raised all these children. They're raised by these people, the model immigrants. They hate America. It's really basic. They're out there burning the American flag, telling you straight up, "Viva la raza," that my flag is this, because people are basic. And I realize, I think proves even further what Jesus was saying, what he was asking you to overcome. But anyways, and why it is true that anger is behind it all. You have to be shallow. Anyway, look, the point is that's how people think. Don't you see it? So even with this whole thing, if it's true that 80% disapprove of the Iranian regime, it doesn't matter. Even presented a way out, I guess if we were to believe the poll to 80%, that they are being presented a way out. They don't want to take it. If we're to believe some of this, they don't want to take it because they're feeling a sense of unity against Israel because we're Iranian. We are Iranian. We have this flag. So that's just how people think, I think. It's an interesting thing, though. So I don't know how successful that'll be, Netanyahu and Republicans who are very, congressmen. I don't even know who these people are, but they're very vocal. Congressman Michael Baumgartner. The single best thing that could happen for peace in the Middle East is regime change in Iran. Now, I don't want to I'm almost saying that sarcastically, like I know it wouldn't be. I'm sincerely a person who's, actually taking in this conversation, how far back it goes, and I'm sincerely taking it in. On that statement, sincerely, I don't know. It could be true. It could be true. Like I'm really leaving that up. I'm leaving it up to Trump and seeing how it turns out. Honestly, it could turn out not how people say. Like, how do I put this on? You'd have to, on a technicality, if I may, or how else to put this, but you'd have to say the fat lady hasn't sung yet, right? Like, Iran is coming to the negotiating table. Like, it's a dynamic situation. So it's all fascinating things we're watching. We're definitely watching. And people are watching these. They had this collection of JPEGs showing all these Republicans that came out instantly like, yep, time to regime change. It's like, hold on. I thought the president was still negotiating. Like, are you getting a little ahead of yourself? Like, let the president do his thing, So anyways, some that's Iran for you. Some of the Anchor Baby's thoughts on it. That's the news. Some of the sides on this and what we're paying attention to now. What can I say? It's an angry world. We got calls coming in, 888-775-3773. Let's see what else here. Yep. What else? We got super chatters and all that. We'll get to all of you. Let's see here. We got Creighton out of Mexico. How you doing, Creighton?
Yo, what's up, Nick?
How you doing, sir? You're on the air.
Can you hear me okay this time?
Loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, good. I know my Mexico connection gets jacked up a little bit sometimes.
No problem, but thank you.
So what's going on? What do you think about this Iran mess? Does this have any biblical significance for you?
Man, I'm hearing all these angles, and I'm just taking it in, seemingly, almost maybe even for the first time in some cases in some of this topics. But I don't know. I really can't tell you. But I've heard that angle too. It's biblical. In what way have you heard? In what way have you heard that this is biblical?
Yeah, well, I heard a preacher once to say, I don't remember his name, but he said Israel is the minute hand on God's watch.
What? Israel is the minute hand on God's watch. Explain what that means. And is that in the Bible?
Well, it's not in the Bible. This is something that a specific preacher said one time. But the point being that all Bible prophecy is based off of Israel. All of the late times prophecy is based off of the events that are taking place in Israel.
And you believe that?
Sure. This is for the dispensational Christians, this is very important stuff. I mean, a lot of dispensational, obviously, the establishment of Israel in 1948 was a big deal.
I guess. Help me understand. You're saying that this attack with Iran is biblical in some way. It refers to end time prophecy. You're saying the phrase Israel Israel is the minute hand on God's watch, meaning Israel is deeply tied to these end time prophecies. I mean, I think we're following so far. Can you say one way specifically how this fits prophecy? You're saying you believe it, right? You're saying Iran.
Well, I mean, this is part of it. I mean, what I'm personally watching for is the rebuilding of the temple. As a lot of people are, the third temple in Jerusalem. But
what do you think?
I mean, you've got all of the world.
What's
aligned against Israel with the UN. What's that?
What's dispensationalism?
What do you mean sensationalism?
You said dispensationalism?
Dispensational, yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, that's these people that believe in the final dispensation here of that we're coming into the end times and all this.
Oh, so that's kind of like millennialism and all that? Are we in the 1,000 years?
I guess you call it maybe post.
Are we in the 1,000 years before Jesus comes or after and all that?
Right. Well, dispensationalists, I believe, are premillennialists.
Oh,
we haven't
okay.
reached it yet.
What do you say to?
What do you think about Catholics and stuff? They're amillennial. Like they believe in like a symbolic, like Jesus already came back and it's a symbolic millennial period. It just, but I think it's the dispensationalists. I don't know if you ever heard of this.
What do you think about?
A famous book that was written called.
I don't know that much. I know maybe a little bit to ask you something about it. Can I ask you this? Isn't it all about also a great calamity that's supposed to come, a great wars that's supposed to come, like the third temple gets built?
Yeah, the tribulation.
The tribulation, right?
Well,
so
I think the dispensationalists believe that, for example, Jesus, he prophesied the Jerusalem would be trampled under the foot of the Gentiles for a certain period of time. And the dispensationalists believe that in 1948 with the establishment of Israel, that fulfilled that prophecy 1,900 years later.
And so going further, this attack with Iran and the possible third temple that you're watching to be built, it'll all signify what's to come. This tribulation, which is what some people say, like basically World War III, right?
Yeah, the restoration of Israel.
But am I right that that's the thinking, that World War III, these great conflicts are going to come? That if you were to follow what you're saying,
there's something called the tribulation, the time
right?
of,
And if you were to follow what you're saying,
time of Jacob's trouble.
Hold on, let me get it out, Creighton. Right? I'm asking you. And if you follow what you're saying, that this thing with Iran, this attack with Iran, is signs of what's to come, a World War III. So in this timeline of events of what you're talking about, World War III is in that timeline of events.
Well, I don't know if it's World War III, but you have to
fair enough
look at it within the context of biblical prophecy, and you're going to see that there's a restoration of Israel. Eventually, this, in I think it was Genesis 9 or whatever, when God defined the territory of Israel, that land will be reestablished. And it's not for God. It's not for Israel's benefit. It's for God's benefit. But it's impossible that it won't be established.
Gotcha, man. Well, I appreciate it, Creighton. Yeah, no. The reason I bring that up is simply because I've heard about that as well, and the thinking is some calamity and tribulation is coming, and so yeah, this is all biblical. That's why World War III is coming, and so. The reason I was bringing that up is because concerning some of this news that Iran wants to come back to the negotiating table and all that, it's like, wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be interesting? It turns out no calamity's coming, and it's all just like Jewish prophecy nonsense.
Well, I mean, if Iran backs down and they concede, and Israel increases their territory and they eliminate everyone from Gaza and they continue to establish their original Israel, that's biblical. But the point
Fair enough,
being,
Creighton. Appreciate your call.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You were going to say something? You were going to say a last thing there?
Well, I just mean that the point being that anytime anything happens in Israel, people, basically, to use a term, they shit their pants,
Shed
nobody
your
would
pants?
Care. Nobody would care if this was a war in
why would you shed your pants? I don't even know how to do
that.
that.
Nobody would care if this was happening in Africa with some small country or
right.
Oh, in Myanmar.
Totally. So it's in the land of the Bible.
In Israel, everybody goes crazy.
Totally. I'm following that. Yes, Creighton,
so
sir.
It obviously has a biblical significance. That's why everybody's getting so crazy about it.
I think we're on a bit of a delay. Creighton, man, appreciate your call.
All right.
Call me again, sir.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for taking my call, Nick.
For sure. A little bit of a delay there. 8887 Mexico. He's calling me from Mexico. Heard around North America. Heard around the world, right? We got Indian viewers. Shout out to my Indian viewers. By the way, speaking of the Indian viewers, side note here, folks. It is in fact real. And I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't. This person posted, my brother just sprinted into my room yelling, open Google Translate and type this in, and I just can't believe it's real. And they share this image, and I'm like, no, this is just an internet joke. There's no way this is real. There's no way that Poopen, Sharten, and Farten is Google Translate detects that as Hindi and translates that to full terms and conditions. It's just not possible, I thought to myself. It's just no way. Right? In no way is that true. And so here we are on Google Translate. We're asking Google Translate to detect the language. We are typing in Poopen, Sharten, Farten. Google Translate has detected that as Hindi.
Poopen, Sharten, Farten.
And translate that to
full terms and conditions.
I'm sorry, folks. I wish it wasn't. I wish this wasn't true. And mostly because shout out to my Indian, brothers. Indian stock has gone down on the internet. It's a shame. It's because of stuff like this. If only, you came together, some kind of agency, something to modernize it. I don't know what you got to do, but it's a PR nightmare. It's clearly a public relations nightmare. And if only you had a team kind of dealing with this, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But honestly, I wish it wasn't true. Shout out to the people. I don't even know if that's really Hindi. I don't speak the language. That's just like an internet thing. Maybe it's like some kind of funny translation thing that's wasn't meant to happen. And that's not really the language. But I'm just telling you. I'm just reporting the news, okay? Appreciate all the supporters. Let me shout some of you out here, actually. Thank you so much. Appreciate all my supporters here. We have members on Rumble. Incredible. Hold on. Let me pull it all up here because we got members here. Lovely viewers and members. So generous. Thank you so much. We got Aaron G, man. Thanks for the super chat. Says, you have amazing conversations with Mark from LA. I would recommend him as a full-on guest on your show, but neither agree nor disagree with you on this. Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to be neither agreeing or disagreeing with people. I thought to myself that would be quite difficult. Because how do you communicate with people? So I guess, okay, from this point forward, I'm neither agreeing or disagreeing with people. It's going to be strange, maybe callers on my show, but just know that I'm doing my homework. I'm going to attempt to neither agree nor disagree with people. Lord Bibi with a super chat says, it's ironic how the left is bashing Trump for pausing immigration, but isn't that what they wanted? Does the left even know what they want anymore? Did the left want to pause immigration, Lord Bibi? Help me understand that one. You might be right. Aaron, thanks for the super chats. The earlier super chats and all that. I enjoyed that live on the street stream a lot, man. Amazing to see you interact with strangers and give real-time commentary on real-life situations. Even more amazing review. I don't think we got to these. Yeah, I don't think we got to these super chats. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for that, Zit. Very generous. Thank you. Amazing. We got some coffees here. Buymeacoffee.com/anchorbaby. Appreciate the support from somebody. Someone. With the coffees. And we got, let me read this. Hold on. Let's see here. We got from JC. Coffees from JC says, hello, Nick. Got the chance to watch that broadcast you had Saturday. Why didn't you and Derek not wear your MAGA gear? As I've told your friends and supporters, if I'm protesting, I can wear my rainbow apparel. Also, so many of your interviews got cut short because the stream would cut out. I know. Well, thanks for tuning in, JC. You know, it's not controversial to wear a rainbow LGBT apparel. I don't know if you realize that. That's not controversial. You pretty much get support from the left, the right, your mainstream conservatives, the GOP, every company, every Fortune 500 company, you know, the Republicans, the Democrats. It's not a controversial thing to wear your thing. So we just, like, I could pull up video of people wearing MAGA hats at some of these No Kings protests, and they were getting pressed. And at sometimes, I saw this one video of this one streamer who they recognized. He wasn't wearing MAGA gear or anything, and he was a little streamer too. I think it was in Chicago or something. They recognized him, or New York. They're like, you're that right-wing agitator. This guy, da-da-da. They were pressing him. They were robbing him. So that's why, JC, Got animals out there. So anyways, also, many of your interviews got cut short. Yeah. You know, even with network bonding, it doesn't matter. It seems to be like a big crowd. Like, I mean, sincerely, I even heard things. I wasn't the only one saying about signal jammers. That might be a thing on how to disperse crowds and stuff. But anytime I was in that huge crowd, there was just no way to get service. And that's with 3 networks bonded. But thanks for tuning in. JC says, I told your people to send a super chat to tell y'all your streams were messing up. Even I was like, restart the stream. Alas, F ICE and F Trump. That's from JC. Anyways, thank you from Little Rock. Let's see here. All right, that's it. That's it with all that. So appreciate that. Moving on. So let me pull this up. I found this somewhat interesting, and this is kind of more off the top, a little bit loosey-goosey, but considering we have a little bit of time here, let's jump in. It's this story concerning a town in Texas, San Marcos. And now this city was brought up on the Jesse Lee Peterson show earlier with that guest, Leonarda Joni, a comedian who was on the JLP show. She brought up an interesting story concerning cities in America. Now, she made it's a claim, right? What's the word I'm looking for? Polarizing claim, I'm sure. She said something akin to, and I don't want to misrepresent her. It's just I don't quite remember exactly how she put it, but when Jesse asked her about blaming, essentially, hate, blame, and victimhood, you know, when you see how the blacks blame the whites and how badly that has turned out for them. And she agreed very strongly with Jesse about that. When asked what's wrong with the blacks, to her it was clear. The hate, blame, and the victimhood, you know, when you have decades of blaming like that, it's just a pernicious effect on the people. Jesse asked her about whites turning into, you know, adopting a similar blaming attitude with the Jews. And he's seeing that as a concerning trend. I tend to agree with that. I tend to share that with Jesse. Now, Leonarda brought up, in response to being asked about that, she did bring up, though, it bothered her. She brought up Jewish supremacy, she said. I found that interesting. You know, I do see a parallel with how blacks call whites supreme. And how so many what's so wrong about that mindset is at that core is there putting someone else above you. Whether right or wrong, whether you hate them for it or not, you're doing something that I think even Jesus told you not to do. Have no masters, no teachers. And so in that way, when you call them supreme, you're doing that. I found that interesting that she used that term, right? Jewish supremacy, she's against it. I liked her a lot, by the way. I thought she was great. That being said, she brought up, in response to this about blaming and all that, she's like, wait, hold on, Jesse. Did you know, though? I'm really against Jewish supremacy, and there are some concerning stories. She brought up an interesting story concerning San Marcos in Texas. Now, if I remember, the way she put it, though, was like this. Jesse, did you know that every state in America, and not only every state, every city in America, gives money and sends it over to Israel? And something like that. And then when this little city in Texas called San Marcos, this is how she was describing it, and I'm paraphrasing her description of it because I can't quite remember. She was describing how this little city in San Marcos became aware of this money going there somehow. And so in their attempt to undo that, so that they could, you know, apportion that money for the people in their city as opposed to there, Governor Greg Abbott came down the line and said, hey, that's anti-Semitic. And to her, that's crazy. You know, that does sound crazy, right? It really is. It sounds nuts. But it's not necessarily like that. Now, let me pull it up. That's not exactly the whole story. So here, let me pull it up. In spring 2025, it's not even that long ago, like April, the San Marcos City Council in Texas considered a resolution calling for a Gaza ceasefire, an arms embargo on Israel, and a reallocation of city-level tax dollars away from Israel's military. That's what this story was about. I may have even heard of it, but I honestly did not. I'm only looking into it now, right? I may have even heard this. This may have even been a big deal back then. I'm only kind of noticing the details about it now. But essentially, Governor Greg Abbott threatened this state to pull its funding, threatened state funding from this city, San Marcos, the city San Marcos. The governor of Texas threatened them to, remove their funding, the state funding. But not because, the way she put it was like, oh, they simply wanted to stop giving money to health care for Israel and instead wanted to fund health care in their city and roads and something, the way she put it. And when you look into it, you realize, okay, well, hold on. It's not exactly that, right? This resolution they were trying to call for was very, very politically charged. It was like this call for a Gaza ceasefire and all that. And so, of course, you're going to have issues with that. Of course, you're going to have political issues with that. Okay? Governor Abbott responded with a formal letter labeling the proposal anti-Semitic and potentially violating a 2017 Texas law against boycotting Israel. He threatened to withdraw state grants and scrutinize multiple bonds if the resolution passed. Now, why is this story even interesting to me? I think it describes, in one perspective, you could say, wow, the city of San Marcos wanted to just simply fund their own citizens as opposed to Israel. And they dared to do that, and the governor comes down and calls them anti-Semitic for it. Yeah, this is terrible. Israeli-occupied San Marcos. So that's one perspective. And I think it's more like what you're seeing here, because it's like even that detail is wrong. It's not that what they were calling anti-Semitic is not the desire to, put tax dollars to stuff in San Marcos, which I'm not against. It makes perfect sense. But it's because it was a ceasefire on Gaza. So now it becomes this political thing that it's either you're for or against Israel. And if you're against, then that means you're out there waving this Palestinian flag and you're okay with genocide or whatever of Israel. And you see it becomes very political. So if anything, what this reveals is how do you put this? Put it like this. To be conservative is to be supportive of Israel. Put it like this. To be conservative is to conserve, is to conserve something, right? And what are conservatives conserving? A status quo that we're seeing maybe fall apart in the modern age due to immigration, due to a number of things. But this status quo is a strong support / embedding through money, through organizations, through AIPAC, etc. You're seeing that is the status quo. That's kind of, I'm learning how it's been for at least some time, at least 20, 30 years of the Middle East policy. I don't know, you can go further back maybe. So when you start from that basis, it starts to make sense why it is that conservatives deeply talk like this. It's anti-Semitic to go against Israel and all that. because that is conservative. It's I don't know how else to put this. That is the status quo, you know. To undo that, you don't know what. I'm not saying it's bad, but to undo that, you don't know what it will be the effects of that. I don't know. Now we're in the weeds. So, anyways, Abbott and San Marcos. To me, it just shows that relationship, this embedded status quo relationship, and how that is conservative, right? I'm not saying that's not even a moral statement if that's good or bad. It's simply a description of politics and how that's changing. We're seeing that change, and now there's people criticizing Israel and all that. It's just like what I'm seeing, okay? So anyways, I think that, if anything, the San Marcos story describes that, as opposed to, I'm just nitpicking her, but it's just that was wrong to say it that way, don't you think? They just wanted to bring tax dollars to fix the roads. No, you had it seems to me a political city council or whatever that wanted to not just fix the roads, but have a ceasefire for Gaza. It's like, okay, you're going to have problems there. It's like, the question is, why can't we just fix the roads? The answer then you realize is because this is a status quo. These Jewish people, Israel has been in America for a long time, and so they have a deep relationship, right? I know anyways, I don't know how to speak on this well. It's not, anyways, let's move on. 888-775-3773 on this particular one. Let's just move on. I don't know how to speak on that too well. And it's not coming to me, so let's just keep it moving here, huh? William, number 7, California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Go ahead. Yeah, all is well.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, excellent. Hey, I just was shouting out to y'all's church. I was on a little road trip yesterday and tuned you guys in kind of late and got the kid to a little bit listen to y'all, but he fell asleep. And then a friend of mine who is a friend from church from the past, and I think he liked what he heard. He was wondering what kind of church this was, if he had never, I guess he never heard this type of format on how Jesse how you guys discuss about things and talk about things in in your guys' lives that actually apply to you guys and not other things and thoughts and imaginations and stuff on the other side of the earth.
Nice. So he liked church?
Yes, I listen every Sunday. I do. Yeah. And I guess Mimi's back. I forget. Is Mimi the one that when she would talk would say a boot?
What's your question or comment, William?
So I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. What's your question or comment? I'm not sure what you're talking about. You liked your friend liked
talking
church?
About the church. I was shouting that out.
Okay, and, nice. Yeah. Shout out church.
Yeah, he had mentioned
rebuildingtheman.com/church.
Attention. Yeah, but is it pretty obvious that? I was coming back. I was on a road trip. It was a flat Earth meetup, and I hadn't been to one in quite a few years, and that's why we went to
a flat Earth meetup.
Yeah, can you believe it? They have those.
Yeah, no, I've heard of those.
Yeah, and so it's pretty obvious, though, so it's pretty obvious we're on the globe, though, right? That's what I was told. That's pretty obvious. But anyway, I was trying to be funny, making you see if you would agree or disagree. So I apologize, Nick.
No, don't
That's
be sorry.
my sense of humor. That's my sense of humor in case people don't understand it.
No, don't be sorry. I was just.
That's
I
it,
thought
man.
You really went to a flat Earth thing.
What's that?
No, don't be sorry. I just thought you really went to a flat Earth thing.
Oh, yeah, I might have. I mean, I don't lie. Doesn't mean I'm a flat earther just because I went to check it out.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, that's it. Shout out to Mark in Los Angeles, and my brother Rick, and shout out to y'all.
Thank you, William. Call me again.
All right, man. Peace out.
888-775-3773. Where was I? You guys would go to that Flat Earth meetup? What do you guys need to go? I mean, what, to see what? To be convinced? Like you're going what, to see what, insanity? But I wouldn't want to do that. It's like, I don't need to do that. Let's look at people who say things that are not true. Or do you have questions? I can understand having questions, but like try and answer them. You might come to find that it's an obvious globe. Yeah. Instead of going with like the convention and what the Flat Earth convention is, because that's the thing about consensus and conventions. Now you got a room of people and you're like, wow, I'm an easily convinced person. I just need a room of, confront the Flat Earth maybe a little bit. Because I would say like, I'll leave it up to, I guess I haven't seen the Earth myself. But some of this stuff does not make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like that sun. I'll leave that up to Hake, dealing with the Hake report of Flat Earth callers. But the sun, that ends it for me. I'm telling explain the sun. It does not disappear into a point. You lying. The sun does not go far, far away and then disappears into a point. No, it dips underneath a friggin' horizon. So that one's for y'all to smoke on and chew on. Like it hasn't been handled. That's pretty much the show, folks. What can I say? The super chats, the callers, the topics, we did it all. We'll be back tomorrow. Country Western Tuesday with the JLP show and the rest of the network. That's pretty much it, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Don't be rude. Show some decorum. Leave a comment in the chat. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. You've been here this whole show and you didn't even click a like button. You didn't even say hello in the chat. Don't be rude. Do something here. Show us you're alive. Other than that, folks, appreciate it. Take care. I'm out for real this time. Oh, Lil Nick, too. He's got to say bye. Bye.
The views, information, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this show are the individual's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the JLP Network or Bond. Their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The JLP Network and Bond name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.